o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, the latest assault in Harry's war on the free press is over. The paranoid prince has left the witness box after 2 days of high-stakes High Court testimony that saw the runaway royal reveal a lot of feelings, but not many facts.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
We're continuing our exclusive reporting and recreation of Harry's bombshell evidence in his phone hacking case against Mirror Group newspapers. I'll deliver my final verdict in a special digest next before my superstar panel weigh in. And tonight, I'm joined by Emily Carver, Adam Brooks and Matthew Laza. After another challenging day in the witness box, the Duke appeared overwhelmed by the tabloid trench war he started.
How has that made you feel?
It's a lot.
But should we feel sorry for him, or did Hollywood Harry put in an Oscar-worthy performance? We'll debate that later in the show. Also coming up, after he admitted he didn't seek legal advice until the year he met Meghan.
When did you first go to solicitors to seek advice about a possible claim about Mirror Group newspapers?
I didn't go to them. I bumped into my lawyer, David Sherborne, in France. It's in my book. This meeting happened in 2018.
So prior to you bumping into him, you hadn't sought advice?
No, not at all.
So has Harry's vindictive wife been a factor in this unwise legal campaign? Meghan's estranged sister, Samantha Markle, lines up alongside Lady Colin Campbell for an explosive edition of Royal Masterminds shortly. Plus, as Harry accuses the press of being a little bit mean about his Chelsea breakup, but fails to back up his claims again, has he revealed his true degree of paranoia? His biographer, Angela Levin, is going to weigh in. And after 2 days of woe is me testimony, do you agree that Harry is a victim? Lady Victoria Harvey and Nina Mishkov duke it out on that in The Clash. Elsewhere tonight, England rugby star James Haskell has accused Holly Willoughby of lying about the Philip Schofield scandal.
Unless there's something we don't know, and I knew about this years ago.
Holly didn't know.
Oh, of course she did. Everybody knows. Let's not mess around.
So is it time ITV's Uber Woke CEO Carolyn McCall stopped hiding behind her presenters and senior staff and stepped in? Plus, Tory Deputy Chairman Lee Anderson gives woke teachers, Oxfam and striking Heathrow staff a dose of the real world. He's live in the studio soon. And comedy legend Jim Davidson gives his riotous take on the week's wildest headlines, including Harry's bizarre evidence and Holly's TV return. We'll have tomorrow's newspaper front pages on the way for you too, hot off the press, and a new Greatest Britain Union jackass crowned before the night is out. This is a special edition of Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel. It is time for Prince Harry's evidence, the verdict, straight after the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. The top story tonight, as you've been hearing, the Duke of Sussex has been in the High Court in London today for his second day giving evidence in his privacy case against Mirror Group newspapers. Prince Harry told the court he believes journalists used unlawful techniques to get stories about him, including placing a tracking device on the car of his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy. He also claimed in court that the journalists went to extreme lengths to cover up their alleged phone hacking. The publisher denies wrongdoing. The case continues tomorrow without Prince Harry. Well, in other news today, the White House has described the USA's alliance with the UK as our closest relationship, ahead of Rishi Sunak's meeting with President Joe Biden tomorrow. Earlier, the Prime Minister met with senators, including former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney. He also visited Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier and held talks in Congress with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. During his meeting with Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak is expected to discuss support for Ukraine, the growing threat from China, climate change and the regulation of AI. Now, President Zelensky is shocked at what he calls a failure of the United Nations and the International Red Cross to initiate help after the destruction of the Kakova Dam in southern Ukraine. The country is now appealing for assistance from other international aid agencies. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes and businesses in and around Kherson, with rising water levels peaking today. The flooding also endangered vital crops, threatened drinking water supplies and killed fish and other aquatic life. Here, a Romanian people trafficker has been jailed for his part in an operation to smuggle dozens of Afghan nationals into the UK inside coffin-sized wooden boxes. Adrian Constantin was extradited back to the UK to stand trial after initially fleeing the country. He was sentenced to 3 years and 2 months in prison at Birmingham Crown Court today after pleading guilty to conspiracy to assist unlawful immigration. 35 Afghans, including children as young as 2 and a person with physical disabilities, were screwed into purpose-built hides and smuggled into the UK in the back of vans. And finally, Pope Francis is said to be recovering from a 3-hour-long operation on an abdominal hernia. The Vatican said there were no complications during surgery and that the pontiff would stay in hospital for several more days to recuperate. The 86-year-old suffered a number of medical setbacks recently, including spending 5 days in hospital in March with a lung infection, and 2 years ago there was surgery on his intestine. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's begin our exclusive reporting and recreation now of Prince Harry's evidence, the verdict. I don't know. 3 words repeated by the Duke of Delusion 18 times today in just 3 hours of evidence. I don't remember was a phrase he uttered 9 times. 4 times he tried to deflect questions to his legal team. You won't hear this verdict from the Harry-loving MSM tonight, but the Prince was roundly humiliated in court over 2 excruciating days, given his total lack of evidence to prove any phone hacking. Harry seems to have based this entire case on a hunch that he just must have been hacked because of his obsessive hatred of a free press in the UK. And this is the problem of living in a world where feelings matter more than facts. And he didn't like it when it was made clear that the stories published were easily procured via legitimate journalism or information that was already in the public domain via royal sources, other news outlets, or sometimes even official palace statements. Now, the penny seemed to drop when Harry suggested he was in court to try and discover evidence.
You think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011? The time period that makes up your claim against MGM.
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
No, Harry. I know you want us all to think you're a smart bloke, but you seem to have completely misunderstood how the justice system works. You don't go to the civil court in some sort of fishing expedition. I think the Mirror Group's KC, Andrew Green, was able to get to the nub of what this is really about during this exchange.
Would you be relieved or disappointed if the court found that you had been the target of hacking by Mirror Group newspapers?
I'd only be speculating. I believe that phone hacking was at an industrial scale across at least 3 papers at that time. And that is beyond doubt. To have a decision against me and any other people that come behind me with their claims, given that Mirror Group have admitted hacking, yes, I would feel some injustice.
So you want to have been phone hacked?
Nobody wants to have been hacked, my lord.
Maybe not, but Harry definitely does want to be a victim here. That much is obvious. And when it all started to go wrong again today, Harry started to interrupt the KC questioning him.
The matter of a senior royal serving on the front line is a matter of legitimate public interest reflected in the press. This is about your professional life rather than your private life.
Are you suggesting that while I was in the army, that everything was available for the press to write about?
Can I just repeat, this isn't about you asking me questions. It's about me asking you questions. At what point did you first read the article in The People?
Like most of them, I can't recall. But if that's to suggest the distress was somehow reduced, it certainly wasn't and hasn't been.
Let's move on to...
Part of that article suggests Chelsea and I were due to spend 5 days away before I returned to London. Again, my lord, that's a classic example in my mind of a story coming out previously, which flagged where I was going, who I was with, that no doubt incentivised any reporter at the time. Sorry for interrupting.
Prince Harry, we are now on the 22nd article.
Good morning, Mr. Green.
So despite having the arrogance of a man of utmost privilege, this was not a good morning for Harry. At all. In fact, as long as celebrity justice is not in play, I find it impossible to see how he can avoid a humiliating defeat with his reputation for dealing in facts undermined once more. To respond now, my superstar panel, Conservative Home columnist and broadcaster Emily Carver. The former oh no, that's Adam Brooks there. There we go.
Definitely not Labour.
That is our businessman and entrepreneur, Adam Brooks. And there he is, former Labour Party advisor, Matthew Laza. Emily Carver, I mean, he had no evidence. And today he actually admitted that he had gone to hope, had gone to court, in the hope that something just might emerge. It's not how the justice system works.
It was completely farcical, and I wonder, he turned up to court without evidence, as you said in your digest there. He turned up, and I'm wondering now, what is he actually trying to achieve? Because he's clearly not trying to show that they were criminal, that there was all this criminal activity going on, because he doesn't have the evidence. There were these 33 articles that he's pointing to that he's supposed to know about, and he clearly hasn't done his own reading, his own thorough research. And I feel sorry for his legal team at this stage, because he was not exactly an expert witness there, was he? On his own testimony.
Although I think they have led him down this garden path, to be honest, because very often the KC was saying to him, where have you heard this, Harry? Because this just isn't correct. And he would say, my legal team. Well, so I think they have clearly, because, you know, this is a legal team connected to the hacked off lot. They despise the tabloid press. So I think, in a way, they have used Harry and they have made him look forward.
So he's
today.
A puppet for their wider agenda, which is kind of sums up Prince Harry, doesn't it?
It does.
He's sort of...
He's used by so many
blows in the
people.
wind. He blows in the wind. But may I just say one thing? As a woman, speaking here, the way he brought up Chelsea Davy, 118 times he mentioned her name, apparently.
In the witness statement, yeah.
5 times he mentioned Meghan Markle. If I were Meghan Markle, and I'm no great fan of Meghan, but I'd be quite humiliated by the fact that he is bringing up all of his past relationship, making it seem as if Chelsea was the love he lost, his first love, all of this.
And especially
I would be pretty humiliated.
Meghan hasn't been by his side at all
No.
during all of the fallout over Spare, during this disastrous court case. You do have to start to wonder if Harry is still pining after Chelsea Davy. I thought exactly the same thing. But Adam, this was mortifying today because there were moments where the KC would say, you do realise that this information that you claim the Mirror must have procured from phone hacking, it had actually been published and in every newspaper and put out an alert from the Press Association for 24 hours. And Harry just looked dumbfounded.
He's embarrassed himself again. And there is a reason why royals do not go to court. I think the last time was 1892, Edward VII, over a game of baccarat, I'm told. Now,
That's fun.
Yeah, it's embarrassing and it can open a can of worms. And as you say, you know, dirty laundry is coming out.
So much.
And all this does, it doesn't just embarrass Harry, it's embarrassing the royal family as a whole, worldwide. So, you know, he should have done this. There was a reason William settled out of court, and it's to stop circuses like this. So, I mean, it's really backfired, and it's making him look really stupid.
Matthew Laza, lots of folk like you on the left seem to love Harry. He's become the standard bearer of many of your woke causes. Can you defend his evidence at all today?
I think I'm not sure who's going to win the Actor of the Week award, Holly Willoughby or Harry. It's a pretty close call. So I think it's pretty hard to defend his evidence in court. I mean, you know, as you say, at one point, saying, oh, yeah, the Mirror must have hacked to get this information, and then somebody pointing out there was a Palace press release with said information and a quote from him.
I mean, one of the articles, right, is a commentary piece, an opinion piece written by Tony Parsons. I mean, this is
Tony Parsons is not hacking anybody's phone. I mean, I think there's a wider issue here. I mean, that he's clearly a very troubled and broken person. And when the circus is over, what's left?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he is going to. He's got 50 years of this kind of bizarre exile in California. We're cut off from everything that he knows. I mean, he should be, going to regimental reunions and pottering around Gloucestershire. And instead, he's in this bizarre world. So I feel sorry for him more than being able to defend him.
OK, well, look, we've got lots more of our recreation of what went on in court today. There were so many bombshell, jaw-dropping moments today. And my superstar panel with me all night for this, Matthew Laza, Adam Brooks and Emily Carver, thank you all so much. But also on the way, as an uber-woke head teacher tells pupils to ditch the title Sir and Miss when speaking to teachers, is this erosion of discipline and respect gearing up another generation just to be unbearably entitled? Can't wait to hear what Lee Anderson has to say about that one shortly. But next, in The Clash, after wrapping his woe is me testimony, do you agree that Prince Harry is a victim? So shall I. Lady Victoria Harvey and broadcaster Nina Mishkov do battle on that next. But what do you think? My email address is dan@gbnews.com. Vote in our poll at GBNews on Twitter. The results and The Clash straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Lee Anderson and Angela Levin on the way, but first the clash. And Prince Harry's testimony today in the High Court was dripping with endless poor me sob stories rooted in mistruths. Perhaps none more so than this moment where the Duke wondered how the press knew about his relationship with Chelsea Davy, forgetting the fact the romance was already public knowledge.
In your witness statement, you say you can't understand how any of the media knew where you and Ms Davy were, or who she was with at the time of the article. By the time of the article in the Daily Mirror, her identity and your relationship were already in the public domain, weren't they?
Yes, but I was besieged with photographers at the remote polo ranch in Argentina and don't understand how, because only Chelsea, myself and Marco Dyer had arranged it.
So, I want to know what you think. After wrapping his woe is me testimony, do you agree that Prince Harry is a victim? Dan at gbnews.com, vote in our poll at GB News on Twitter. The results shortly, but to help you make up your mind, I'm joined in the studio and going head-to-head. The socialite and royal expert, Lady Victoria Harvey, and the famous journalist, Nina Mishkov. So, Lady V, Harry wants for us to believe that he's a victim. I don't think we should feel sorry for him at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, Harry is going to keep playing victim. This is all he seems to be able to be good at, and I think Meghan, all she does is just prod him, and he's like a little performing monkey, and then he reacts, and then he starts another lawsuit and another lawsuit, and this one is just making him look so bad, actually. It's completely, like, backfired. And obviously his lawyers, it's almost like his lawyers have set him up. I don't know how he found these lawyers, but they have not done their research at all.
Well, he hasn't done his research.
Well, he hasn't done his research, and he just seems to be talking about Chelsea Davy and, you know, obviously not very happy in his relationship with Meghan Markle.
I mean, Nina, you really feel Harry is a victim, but how?
No.
I mean, this is a guy who has had more privilege than virtually anyone in the Western world, and he wants us to constantly feel sorry for him.
What is a victim? A victim is someone who's put in a situation over which they have no control. Now, Harry had no control over what was printed about him in the press, and we're talking about 8 hours on the stand, and the little instance you've picked out is just one instance over 8 hours. Now, that's not a lot. There was 140 odd articles that he's talking about, and this is a 33 sample cases, as it were. Now, for heaven's sake, you said about Chelsea Davy. Look, everyone's got a past. Everyone's got a first love.
But don't you think he should be just looking into the future and stop going backwards?
He's married, Nina, to the woman who he claims is the love of his life, and yet he seems more unhappy than he's ever been in his life.
America to get away from everything,
he has decided to take on the press, who made his life hell over many, many, many years, and made his mother's life hell over many years.
No, I want to pick you up on the Princess Diana thing, and I'll let you respond. But I think there is a lot of misleading stuff being put out there about Princess Diana. Remember, I adore Princess Diana, but she used the media, Nina, constantly and consistently. And the media were her best mates in a lot of cases.
Some of them. That's how she fought it. That's how she fought it, by giving her own story. He's giving his own story too, and he's perfectly entitled to. He has taken the battle with the tabloids head on. And the thing is,
he's not perfectly entitled to make up claims of phone hacking without evidence.
But he's not making up claims.
OK, Nina, just let Lady V respond.
Just 1 second. Look, a lot of people got hacked, right? I was one of them, but
And is that OK?
No,
it wasn't OK.
No one's saying it's OK, Nina.
So it's illegal. For me, when I was hacked, I knew I was being hacked, but I never had the evidence. And it wasn't until 10 years ago I actually got an email from the Metropolitan Police saying, we believe you're part of Operation Golding, and we have proof because your name was found on a farm pilot.
You got somebody who could prove
editor with a pin.
Yes,
now,
but the point is, that is evidence, Nina. Harry has none of that.
Harry doesn't have that, so
but he knows.
He knows in his mind, right? He probably did.
No, he doesn't know. He thinks.
He thinks.
And that's not enough in a court of law.
I agree. No,
Victoria.
He's trying to be his own.
Victoria, has the Mirror paid out 100 million or not to people they have hacked?
I don't know the figure.
Right.
I
have
no idea. Yeah.
Is it likely, or indeed probable, that having settled out of court with William, he's had his case settled out of court,
I don't know if he's settled with the Mirror.
No, not the Mirror, but he settled his case.
Newspapers.
He settled his case out of... Let me just finish my point.
Highly likely that Harry would have
Is it not probable that he would have been hacked? Why would Harry alone not have been hacked?
Well, no, I need to put the opposite side of this. And by the way, can I just be clear? I am not defending for one second any of the phone hacking that went on. But there is no whistleblower here. There is no evidence.
He doesn't have the hard facts.
Lucky you. Did you get paid off?
I did. I didn't have to go to court.
There you are. You didn't have to go to court.
I had the
evidence. He is having to go to court.
He didn't have the evidence,
But then there were witnesses on the stand.
He doesn't want to see it all because he wants his day in court.
The thing is,
and it's embarrassed him now. Look, I mean, Nina, you must have looked at some of those exchanges and thought he looks pathetic.
I did not think. I think he's very brave. He's fantastically brave to stand up on his own against the tide of all the tabloids.
Right.
Because it's not just the Mirror, but all the other tabloids, the Mail and the Sun. I know. I've been a tabloid journalist.
Yeah.
They all are, they all get together, and it's like a war.
Yeah.
It's like a war against him. So he's very brave. He's the one man standing. No. Good on him. Good on him. And the rest of this country actually agrees with him. Oh, 57. It was a poll today. 57% of them back him rather than the Mirror.
I think he's brave. No, I mean I totally agree. He's brave because obviously there's always, stuff that's printed that some of it is made up, and we all know that stuff does get made up, right? So yes, he is being brave, but the problem is he's gone about this in the wrong way. And
how else should he have gone about it,
like
Victoria? How else should he have?
He should have
like what?
The evidence.
But there's only
Nina,
so much evidence you can get.
No,
Look, you cannot
everything
say
was based on just.
No,
they
it's not.
must have.
No,
They did.
that's
and
not.
Don't you think this is
he
the
talked
risk,
about
Nina? Let me ask you a question.
The listening device on
Nina,
Chelsea's
let me ask
car.
you a question, please. Don't you think this is the risk that Meghan has now put Harry in some sort of post-truth world where facts do not matter?
Facts
they just
do matter.
base everything on their
Facts
feelings,
do
and that's why they were made such fools of with that near catastrophic New York car chase.
He is a seeker after truth. He wants truth, and that is why he's putting himself through this at great expense. He does not want money out of this. What he wants is the truth, and hopefully the truth will come out.
He thinks that it's going to close doors for him, right? Because that for him, he's living in this trauma, right, from his mother's death, and he sees the press and the paparazzi, all of them, as the people that killed his mother.
As the enemy.
So he wants closure. He's trying to get
It's
closure.
not just that. It's because he has been, from a child...
I actually feel so disappointed in you.
Why?
Because you're a journalist.
I'm a journalist,
and
and
you
I
should
understand.
stand up for freedom of the press. And what he wants to do is shut down the reporting of the rich and the powerful.
Truth. I stand up for the truth.
Well, if you stand up for the truth, then you should accept that Harry wasn't hacked.
No, you're saying that Harry was not hacked?
Not by the Mirror, no.
Oh, come on. They hacked everybody. Why would they not hack him?
Well, I'll tell you why.
A special case.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why they wouldn't have hacked him.
Maybe he got hacked by
because they would have been incredibly nervous about the extra security around someone like Prince Harry. So that's why they hack his friends and family members. I'm not defending that, but remember, that case has whistleblowers, and they have not said that Harry was ever hacked.
But it is not OK to hack his family and friends, as you just said.
I know it's not.
You've missed the point.
But the reality is this phone hacking went on years and years ago.
And he was a victim.
I have worked in Fleet Street post-2007, and let me tell you, it completely cleared up his act. What Harry doesn't like is people writing negative stories about him, including me, by the way, and all of my stories, let me tell you, were completely legal, and they're also completely true. He doesn't like it because he only wants really nice coverage.
He's not talking about you. He is talking about the cases that he has brought over a particular
No, he's talking about journalists today.
Well, he
slagged off the government
he mentioned that in
Lady
passing.
V, can you just go into that a bit more?
I mean, from reading Spare, right? He will basically fight to the end of the earth to have the whole of every newspaper shut down.
Yeah.
I mean,
he does not want newspapers shut down. He wants them to be held to a certain level of integrity, truthfulness.
He wants only positive coverage. And believe me, all three of us know what it's like to have terrible things written about us, but we also accept it because you know what? That's what comes with being in a free democracy.
He is not complaining about terrible things written about. He is complaining about people getting facts.
Okay, final word then. Final word.
You know, the thing about him, right? It's like, look, he was supposed to move to America, been happy with his new wife, lay undercover, everything that he was supposed to have done, he's done completely the opposite.
Because he's deeply unhappy.
He wanted to get away from the press.
He's deeply unhappy. Nina Mishkov, Lady Victoria Hartley.
He will get to the truth,
so
and the truth is the most important thing.
Thank you both so much. But who do you agree with on this? Do you think Prince Harry is a victim? Liz on Twitter writes, yes. This trial has been a disaster for Harry. I believe he has been misinformed and misguided, and that he is a victim, not of phone hacking or press intrusion, but of bad guidance. I actually agree with you on that, Liz. Andy writes, no, from what I've read so far, he appears to have zero evidence of anything. And Shane writes, he's a victim in his own mind, perhaps. He's certainly had it no worse than anyone else in the spotlight. The difference is others use their celebrity to help others. The Sussexes simply whine. The Duke clearly needs to deal with his mother's death. And your verdict is now in. 15% of you agree with Nina that Prince Harry is a victim. After that woe is me testimony today, 85% of you say he is not. Coming up, as Harry accuses the press of being a little bit mean about his breakup with Chelsea Davy, while his lack of evidence left him humiliated again, has he revealed his true degree of paranoia? Well, his biographer, Angela Levin, she knows him better than any other journalist, and she's going to give her unflinching analysis shortly. But first, it's time for The Real World with Lee Anderson as the tough-talking Tory deputy chairman gets stuck into woke head teachers ditching discipline, Oxfam's J.K. Rowling turf jibe, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is two new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Angela Levin gives her verdict on Harry's evidence in the High Court today in just a moment. But first, it's time for The Real World with Lee Anderson. And the headmaster of a leading London school has sparked outrage after banning pupils from, wait for it, addressing their teachers as Sir and Miss, instead insisting they use teachers' full titles with surnames to tackle, quote, cultural misogyny. This is James Hanscom. He is the executive principal at the Harris Academy, and he told pupils in an assembly, Miss is how you refer to a small girl or an Edwardian shop assistant. The message is that it's not right to address men as aristocratic knights and women as children. So, Lee, look, we see this awful little TikToker whose name I actually refuse to use, you know, going around and causing all of these trouble for people, sort of showing that disrespect is now rife in our younger generation. And then you have a head teacher saying, oh, no, it's misogynistic to call your teachers Sir or Miss. Is this not just the erosion of discipline?
And this is where it all starts, Dan, in school. Now, I remember one of my favourite school teachers, Mr. Southall. He taught me 40-odd years ago, 45 years ago, and to this day, when I see him in town, I say, hello, sir, how are you? That's how it was. It was sir, it was miss. It was about respect. It's about respecting your school teachers, about respecting your elders, and having that little bit of discipline and those boundaries that you need between a pupil and a teacher. And I suppose this chap is the Harris Academy. He's talking out his Harris. It really is.
It definitely is. And what I hate about it is terms like cultural misogyny. It's like, there's no woman thinks that it's disrespectful to be called miss.
Listen, Dan, where does this come from? Look, you know, I started off life as a coal miner. And if I'd been called Miss or Sir, that would have been quite a nice thing to be called. You need to get in a factory or a building site or in the real world, in real jobs, and see what sort of names are bandied about in the real workplace. It's absolute nonsense. And you know what? This headmaster, in a few years' time, after people are calling him by his first name, he'll be the first complaining that kids are running around feral, and he'll be blaming the government on not investing in youth services when it starts there in school.
But this is happening, isn't it? Kids are running around feral, and it is partly because of the discipline breakdown in the schools. But look, I want to talk about Oxfam International, because I can't believe this. They're refusing to apologise after being forced to delete a Pride cartoon that depicted the best-selling author, brilliant women's rights champion J.K. Rowling as some sort of anti-trans demon. Look at this.
While LGBTQIA+ people around the world are deprived of basic safety, not protected by laws, preyed on by hate groups online and offline.
Now, Oxfam claims that the cartoon was not supposed to be based on anyone particular. Look, put them side by side there. It's pretty hard to believe. So, I mean, this is a humanitarian organisation, Lee, attacking one of our best-selling authors because she believes in the rights of women. We can't support folk like Oxfam.
Well, I mean, J.K. Rowling's been one of our best exports over the last 20, 30 years, you know, from this country. And this Oxfam, they're supposed to concentrate on alleviating world poverty, not attacking one of our national treasures, and she is. And I think, Dan, they've got far too much money and time on their hands to be doing this. They need to keep their nose out of these issues and concentrate on looking after poor people around the world, because that's what we donate money for, to these good causes. And I think Oxfam's going to lose a lot of support over this.
They're hardly squeaky clean themselves, are they?
Well, when you look at some of the dodgy past, you know, in Haiti, in the Congo, you know, there's some dodgy workers out there doing some dodgy things. They need to clean up their own act, sort out the problems in their own backyard, and leave J.K. Rowling alone. She's a national treasure.
Well, do you know what disgusts me now? That any woman who stands up for single-sex spaces, remember, that's all J.K. Rowling has done. She has never attacked trans people ever. And yet this label TERF is thrown at them. Now, I've actually decided to reclaim the phrase TERF. People call me a TERF all the time, trans-exclusionary radical feminist. I think, you know what? If that means that I stand up for the rights of my mother, my sister, my female friends, to have spaces that they are totally protected to be able to compete in sport against other biological women, then so be it. But it's just the name-calling from the nasty left, isn't it?
They're very nasty. It's important, Dan, that we stick up for women at every opportunity. Their rights are being eroded by the day by these lunatics, and it's just a minority of lunatics in this country. We see like the charities are stepping in now, like Oxfam we're speaking about. You know, they've got a big platform. They should know better. They can do a lot of damage, and they are the problem, not the solution.
I know, but this is the risk of a slippery Starmer led government, isn't it? Because he doesn't believe in the rights of women, because he thinks women can have a penis.
Well, even to this day, Dan, he cannot tell you the difference between a man and a woman. And to think that that man, and he is a man, I suspect he's a man anyway, could be leading this country in 18 months' time, what a message that sends out to the rest of the world.
No, indeed. Now, look, terrible news today, especially for me, given I'm looking forward to some summer holidays, but we could be in for a shock. Heathrow Airport has had to announce that strikes will hit travellers almost every weekend from mid-June until the end of August. This is because security staff have decided to down tools and put British borders in jeopardy. So, Lee, we've had this winter of discontent, and it looks like the rabid unions are also now trying to destroy our summer. Is this just going to continue until the election because they are so determined to cause chaos for your...
Well, it's another case, Dan, of the, like you say, rabid union leaders. I don't always blame the members that are trying to hold the country to ransom. They've done it with the schools, they've done it with transport, they've done it with the health service, and now we're just getting back on our feet in this country after a terrible few years with COVID, the pandemic. You know, people deserve a break. They want to go on holiday this summer, and what's going to happen? these terrible union leaders are going to stop people like yourself and me and my friends and my family from going on that well-deserved summer break. And it's a great British public, again, that's going to suffer for these out-of-touch union leaders who are trying to hold the government to ransom in the run-up to the next election. But we'll be tied them, Dan, because, you know, after the election, if Labour do win, these unions aren't going to go away. They're going to come with a begging bowl out to the Labour Party, then they will be in trouble.
They'll be more powerful. The thing that really worries me, Lee, is that these strikes are not actually... they're not really doing what strikes, I believe, are meant to be legal for, you know? To make a point... on a one-off basis. I mean, this is going right back to the 80s and the industrial disputes that lasted for months and months and months on end. Surely your party has to actually say, we've got to look at the laws around this.
Well, minimum service level agreements is a good thing, which we took a lot of flack over that in the House, Dan. Look, you know, back in the day when my dad was on strike and when I was on strike several times when working down the pits, we suffered some hardship. You know, it cost us a lot of money, and when we had a day or two or even a week on strike, that money had to come from somewhere. We didn't have a lot of money. But it's like a career now for some of these unions.
All summer. Yeah. All summer. Yeah. And of course, Lee, they're doing it every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, I wonder why.
And it's coordinated, so they won't be out of pocket as much as what we were back in the day.
I know. Lee Anderson, our Red Wall Rottweiler Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, thank you so much. But coming up, as ITV battles Schofield cover-up claims, James Haskell has sensationally accused Holly Willoughby of lying about her knowledge of Philip Schofield's affair. So is it time the embattled broadcaster's uber-woke Chief Executive Karen McCall actually showed some leadership and showed up? My Superstar panel return to debate that very soon. But next, as Prince Harry accuses the press of being a little bit mean about his breakup with Chelsea Davy, as he lectures journalists about what's in the public interest to cover up for his lack of evidence, has he actually today just revealed his true degree of paranoia? Well, Harry's biographer, the journalist who knows him best, Angela Levin, live, and we're going to show you more recreations of what went on in court straight after the break.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
The Superstar panel react to a brewing civil war at ITV between Amanda Holden and Holly Willoughby shortly, but time now for esteemed royal biographer Angela Levin. And Prince Harry's crippling paranoia was laid bare at the High Court today as he told how Daily Mirror reporting of his breakup with Chelsea Davy was both mean and suspicious. The Duke was challenged on the fact the story was already in the rival newspaper News of the World on the same day and told why the headline, "Hooray, Harry is dumped," was not celebrating his breakup. Watch.
The headline seems to suggest people were celebrating my breakup, which is a little bit mean. I'm not sure how people would have known about the breakup, as we wouldn't talk about that.
There was a front-page article in the News of the World on the same day which reported on the breakup. In the Mirror article, there are only 2 references to the breakup. The information about the split and the quote are very similar to the News of the World's reporting earlier that day. Are you implying that phone hacking was used to give the photographers information about his visit to the nightclub?
It's very suspicious. I'm not sure how the photographers knew he was going to be there.
A memo by journalist Zoe Griffin suggests she had gone to the Amica nightclub herself to report on him being there.
This was perhaps the case, but the article seems suspicious. Going through it again now, "Hooray, Harry is dumped," was hurtful, to say the least. That such a private moment was turned into a bit of a laugh. The fact that the payments were referred to as Project Harry is incredibly disturbing. The level of surveillance that I was under was quite something.
You're not suggesting that Hooray Harry was a reference to celebrating that you were being dumped, are you?
Yes. Again, if it has been used before or not, for me to be the subject or victim of this, to see the word used in this term, is hurtful.
The article quotes that Chelsea got tired of his hooray lifestyle. It's not celebrating the demise of your relationship.
Oh, Angela Levin, I'm cringing watching that exchange for so many reasons, actually. But fundamentally, doesn't this just show that Harry has become very paranoid, given that, number one, Hooray Harry wasn't at all trying to be offensive about his split, and secondly, what he's claiming was a story that came from phone hacking actually came from the Mirror's reporter who just happened to be in the same nightclub as him.
Yes, I mean, it's tragic, isn't it, really? I think his paranoia has come from childhood and he hasn't been able to put it down. I mean, smoking too early when he was 12, drinking when he was 12, heavily getting drunk, taking drugs when he was early teens. I mean, it does affect your mind and it can actually make you somebody who you weren't.
Now, of course, you spent a lot of time with Harry. You were his official biographer for a time. You wrote a lot about the breakup with Chelsea Davy. Lots of folk, including me, have said this week, Angela, it looks like he still has a lot of feelings for Chelsea. He's never really got over her. What do you put that emotion down to?
Well, it's very interesting, actually, because when he met, he fell in love with her and he wrote to his father and said, "I'm completely in love with Chelsea." And his dad wrote, King Charles now, wrote back and said, well, finish your exams at Sandhurst first, where he was training to be military, and let's see after that. So there he was, but he was brought back early from Afghanistan and he started doing helicopter lessons. And then he wasn't interested in her. He really let her down. He was too tired. He didn't want to know. And she got so fed up that on Facebook, she took away the sign that says, are you a couple or are you one? And she put one. and they just sort of fell apart. It was a...
So it's not completely fair for Harry to blame the media for the breakup of this relationship. There were issues with Chelsea herself not being happy with the way that he was acting because, you know, he was out at these strip clubs and that sort of thing.
Yes, he went to the strip club and she was very upset. And he blames that on the press. But actually, one of the girls who sat on his lap briefly, I don't think anything else happened, but she was there, she rang a newspaper and told them. So it's actually, you can't expect a newspaper not to actually do something about that.
But did you get the sense that he'd never completely moved on from Chelsea Davy when you were with him?
Well, it seemed that once they had split up, then he really tried to get her back again. I think they were both very young. He was very young, and they realised that they got on much better than he wanted to. But when one's in South Africa and one's in the UK, it's very difficult to do that.
OK, Angela, I want to show you another moment from our incredible recreation of what went on in court today. So this is the moment Perma victim Harry lectured the court on public interest. Watch.
The Harry Carey story was not in the public interest.
What would be?
I'm not entirely sure. I'd be speculating.
Well, could you speculate for a moment?
A life-threatening injury might warrant the public's interest.
But if you had been let off gruelling marches and given preferential treatment at Sandhurst, then it would have been noticed by others there, correct?
Yes, if it was happening at that period of time.
So, Angela, yet again, he seems to think that he knows best and that he can completely pick and choose what aspects of his life are written about. He doesn't seem to accept that being a royal comes with a degree of privilege, which means there are certain aspects of your professional life, for example, his military career, that the media did feel they had a right to cover.
Yes, well, it was a very important thing. And actually, people looked up to him and felt that he was very brave and courageous to want to go on the front line. They tried to stop him because they felt it was too dangerous because his position in the hierarchy. But he wanted to do that. And he told me that that's when he really felt he was existing. He wanted to do something for his country. That no longer happened. And he felt that this was,
and by the way,
absolutely the right thing for him. And he was very, very heartbroken when he had to come back.
And by the way, can I just say, the press, who he hates so much, absolutely presented Harry as a national hero as a result of his military service. But look, Angela, I just want to wrap up, because, of course, this has been an extraordinary 48 hours. How badly do you think Prince Harry's reputation has been damaged as a result of this?
I think it's gone even further down underneath the earth, actually, because people can't understand how you can be so silly to go to a court and not know that you have to present facts. It's not that you're sweeping through it, or it could be, or I don't know, or ask somebody else. He has to be responsible. You've seen that he's very immature like that, won't take responsibility, and also that he expects everyone to do things for him and doesn't know that what you're like in a court. Well, he should have done. Somebody should have told him, or he should have looked it up himself. But he doesn't like sitting at a desk learning anything. And I think it's exposed parts of him that really are very sad and not very hopeful.
Prince Harry's biographer Angela Levin, thank you for joining us for our coverage this week. It's been an extraordinary few days, and we'll deal with the fallout of it next week. Thank you, Angela. But coming up, as Harry admits he didn't seek legal advice until the year he met Meghan, has his wife been a factor in this unwise legal campaign? Lady Colin Campbell and Meghan's estranged sister Sam Markle join me for an explosive edition of Royal Masterminds shortly. But next, as ex-England rugby star James Haskell accuses Holly Willoughby of lying about the Philip Schofield scandal, and This Morning staff call on Martin Frizzell to be axed, does ITV's uber-woke chief executive Caroline McCall need to stop hiding behind her senior staff and presenters and step in? That's our big debate next. Plus, you'll get a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. I have a feeling I know what they will be covering. Don't go anywhere. We're back in just 2 minutes' time.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, after 2 days of intense cross-examination, Prince Harry has finished giving evidence in his phone hacking case against Mirror Group newspapers. But does the deranged Duke of Sussex leave the witness box with any dignity remaining? We'll bring you more of those historic scenes at the High Court with the help of our very own Harry.
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
And after revealing his latest attack on the British press is to protect his wife, is Meghan the driving force behind those futile courtroom battles? Well, the Duchess's sister, Samantha Markle, joins me live alongside her friend and confidant, Lady Colin Campbell. Don't miss their exclusive insight shortly. Plus, as Harry fights back tears at the closing stages of his testimony...
How has that made you feel?
It's a lot.
So should we feel sympathy for the runaway royal, or has he been picking up acting lessons from his mates in Hollywood? I'll pose that to my superstar panel, and tonight I'm joined by Emily Carver, Adam Brooks and Matthew Laza. Elsewhere on the show, as England rugby star James Haskell accuses Holly Willoughby of lying about her own involvement in the Philip Schofield scandal.
Unless there's something we don't know, and I knew about this years ago.
Holly didn't know
Oh, of course she did. Everybody knows. Let's not mess around.
So amid a cover-up storm, can Holly and her ITV bosses continue burying their heads in the sand? We're going to debate that next. And finally, comedy legend Jim Davidson gives his sure-to-be riotous take on the week's biggest headlines, including Harry's bizarre evidence and Holly's TV return. There'll also be a new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass named, and first newspaper front pages have just arrived. They'll be hot off the press after the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thanks very much indeed. Well, our top story today, as you've been hearing, the Duke of Sussex has been at the High Court in London today, giving his second day of evidence in his privacy case against Mirror Group newspapers. Prince Harry told the court he believes journalists used unlawful techniques to get stories about him, including placing a tracking device on the car of his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy. He also claimed that they went to extreme lengths to cover up their alleged phone hacking. The publisher denies any wrongdoing. The case continues tomorrow without Prince Harry. The White House has described the USA's alliance with the UK as our closest relationship, ahead of Rishi Sunak's meeting with President Biden tomorrow. Earlier, the Prime Minister met with senators, including former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney. He also visited Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier and held talks in Congress with the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. During his meeting with Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak is expected to discuss support for Ukraine, the growing threat from China, climate change and the regulation of AI. President Zelensky has said it's impossible to tell how many will die after the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine. The country's now appealing for international assistance from aid organisations after what he's called a failure of the United Nations and the International Red Cross to initiate help. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes and businesses, and around Kherson, with rising water levels, they've peaked today. The flooding also endangered vital crops, threatened drinking water, and killed fish and other aquatic life as the dam drained. Here, a Romanian people trafficker has been jailed for his part in an operation to smuggle dozens of Afghan nationals into the UK inside coffin-sized wooden boxes. Adrian Constantin was extradited back to the UK to stand trial after fleeing the country. He was sentenced to 3 years and 2 months in prison at Birmingham Crown Court today after pleading guilty to conspiracy to assist unlawful immigration. 35 Afghans, including children as young as 2, were screwed into purpose-built hides and smuggled into the UK in the back of vans. Pope Francis is recovering from a 3-hour-long operation on an abdominal hernia. The Vatican says there were no complications with the surgery and the pontiff will stay in hospital for several days to recuperate. The 86-year-old suffered a number of medical setbacks recently, including spending 5 days in hospital in March with a lung infection. Excuse me. And 2 years ago, he had surgery on his intestine. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. You're with GB News. Back now to Dan.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. Just one front page is in so far. It's the Metro. It leads with Harry's High Court bombshell claim that he once found a tracking device on his ex-girlfriend's car. The alleged incident happened during a trip to South Africa with Chelsea Davy in 2005. Don't go anywhere. Lady Colin Campbell, Samantha Markle, at the same time reacting to today's evidence. Oh, my goodness, it's going to be brilliant, isn't it, in just a few minutes' time. But first, my superstar panel, the Conservative Home columnist and broadcaster Emily Carver, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. Now, staff at This Morning have called for their boss, Martin Frizzell, to quit after the show's editor made those bizarre comments to a reporter earlier this week about aubergines.
Is there a toxic work environment at This Morning?
I'll tell you what's toxic. I've always found toxic. Is aubergine. Do you like aubergine? Do you?
Now, one outraged staff member told the Daily Mail, surely this has got to be the end for Martin Frizzell. He has undermined anyone who feels that they have been treated badly on This Morning. Another added, people are angry. They want to know what is going on. Can you imagine going into Martin's office now to speak up? Aside from the alleged toxic culture at ITV, the broadcaster has denied orchestrating a cover-up over Philip Schofield's affair with a teenage colleague. And this line was obviously agreed by Holly Willoughby when she returned to This Morning.
You, me and all of us at This Morning gave our love and support to someone who was not telling the truth, who acted in a way that they themselves felt that they had to resign from ITV and step down from a career that they loved.
However, earlier today, England rugby star and media personality James Haskell accused Holly of lying.
Unless there's something we don't know, and I knew about this years ago.
Holly
if I knew about it.
Holly didn't know about it.
Oh, of course she did. Everybody knows. Let's not mess around.
So, Adam Brooks, this is becoming increasingly difficult for Holly Willoughby. And look, I do have sympathy for Holly Willoughby. I think she's in a difficult position. But especially the bosses at ITV, including that uber-woke, holier-than-thou chief executive Carolyn McCall, who likes to hold everyone else to these very high moral standards. More and more and more people, from Eamon Holmes, now James Haskell, says he knew. You know, everyone knows.
Look, I've got friends that have been on this morning and they said it was a toxic environment. It's certainly no family atmosphere like they're pretending it was. But
it's the most dysfunctional family in Britain.
The question needs to be asked.
More than the Royals.
Yeah. Why was a runner... Why was a runner on stage with the executives and the top stars at the awards ceremony? Of course they knew. Why did they pay him off? It was well known. It was well known throughout the studio what was going on. So, of course, the skirting around and pretending that they didn't know, it's embarrassing. But one thing, ITV's share price is down 10% over the last month. People are going to start getting the real ump if things don't change pretty soon, because that's people's investments and people's pension pots, let's say.
Well, Emily Cover, that's quite a good point, isn't it? You know, you're an economic expert. Just from a business point of view, can Carolyn McCall stay silent? Because surely she owes it to her shareholders now, her investors, to actually get a handle on the situation. She is burying her head in the sand and trying to say nothing to see here.
Yeah, it seems like she's just trying to ride it out like Holly Willoughby is. I mean, just a point on Holly, I mean, they all just seem as fake as each other, really, this lot. I mean, I can't trust a word she's saying.
Do you think you can blame Holly, or is it not her fault?
I don't really want to blame her, but to me, it's just all fake. I don't believe a word they say on television. Perhaps not. I don't know why she's still continuing to go back to this morning. I mean, of course, otherwise it would look like, you know, she had something to hide even more. But do you know what gets me, though? I don't like how the government and ministers are now getting involved, because Carol will be before the Select Committee, the DCMS Select Committee,
yes, a week today.
Next Wednesday, a week today. So that will be very interesting. But should it really be the job of politicians to get involved? We had an SNP MP grandstanding on this, telling the editor, Frizzle, whatever his name is,
they can hardly talk,
how awful he is, etc., etc. So, you know, I think they all like to go on the attack, don't they?
Yeah, well, I guess the reason, Matthew, and maybe you can talk about this from a political perspective, how you deal with these sorts of crises, the reason why MPs feel that they have some sort of hold over ITV is because they are a public service broadcaster. And being a public service broadcaster gives you lots of privileges, and so that's why MPs feel like they have some sort of reason to question them.
Absolutely, and I think also because this morning became a kind of totem for politicians. You know, we know the famous David Cameron clip with Schofield's little list. Therefore, I think there's a bit of revenge taking here that people had to pay court to King Philip, and you know, because if you're doing a big political interview, a serious interview, you've got a choice whether you interviewed by by whichever news presenter. But when this morning you had to do it, and if Philip was going to try and get one over on you, so there's a bit of that.
But I mean, this story, I believe, has moved on from Philip Schofield now. He's had his say, fine. But you say, as someone who has dealt with these political crises for a very, very long time, obviously you were advisor to Ed Miliband, he had a whole load of political crises, but you say ITV has managed to turn a crisis into a disaster.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this will be taught in business schools as an example of how not to handle crisis management. The very obvious thing to do, if you wanted to save the brand, and let's face it, this is a key brand. It's a very key demographic that it appeals to, get a key advertising demographic for the channel. What they've managed to do is just because nobody's got a grip. The first rule of crisis management is take responsibility, and somebody takes ownership, and somebody gets a grip. And instead, I mean, Martin's comments were somewhat bizarre, but they've kind of, you know, they've left Martin to face the music while others haven't.
Does that have to mean someone gets the sack? I mean, besides Philip, I mean, does someone in management have to get the sack? Does there have to be a fall guy?
Well, I think possibly there has to be a fall guy, but I think the most important thing is to establish actually what went on. So what I would have done if I'd been running ITV on several million a year is I would have taken the programme off air until September. We're almost at the school summer holidays. I would have allowed a reset. Think of that poor team having to produce 3 hours, whatever it is.
This is going to get worse because there's a lot of anger amongst former staff, former contributors, and the whispers I'm hearing is that everyone wants to put their two pence worth in now, and more's going to come out. So this could get worse.
Obviously, you refer to John Nicholson, the SNP member on the Select Committee. Now, yes, obviously, they've got lots of their own problems.
He was trying to get his social media clip.
Yeah, he is, but he's now asking for whistleblowers from ITV. There are lots of other stars coming forward. I mean, this is...
how low does the share price go before she has to resign anyway?
And, of course, it's a cover... I mean, look, I know it's something we all say time and again, but it is the cover-up that is worse than the crime, and I think that absolutely proves to be the case here. Basically, when I went to ITV with this pretty basic story in November 2019, they should have just investigated then, owned up and said, yes, Philip had an inappropriate relationship, it's over now, either sack him or discipline him there, get ahead of the story. The problem is it was the lies that were told that has turned this into now quite a defining scandal, I think, for the regime of Carolyn McCall. And the problem is she has sacked people for far less. Remember, effectively, Piers Morgan was forced out of his job simply because he disbelieved Meghan Markle's lies, which have proven to be lies. So I think that's the problem. She has set herself up.
It makes me wonder if there's any more scandals with other people there that could come out.
Who knows? Who knows? But look, now, rabid nationalist Michael Sheen has told the Daily Telegraph that he finds it hard to accept when actors who aren't from Wales play Welsh roles. The actor has since gone on to clarify that it's because he has, quote, heard a lot of dodgy Welsh accents. But I was thinking about this, and Sheen's own nationality hasn't stopped him from playing these non-Welsh characters, has it? Look.
First thing you can do for me is to chuck all your medals and all your caps and all your pots and all your pans into the biggest flipping dustbin you can find. Wait, just so I understand correctly, are you really saying that in certain situations the president can decide whether it's in the best interests of the nation and then do something illegal?
I'm saying that when the president does it, that means it's not illegal.
Your Majesty, my party has won the election, and so I come now to ask your permission to form a government.
No, Mr. Blair. Mr. Blair, I asked the question.
OK, so a deal now. Surely Michael Sheen doesn't want to be seen as a hypocrite, right? So from this day on, Michael Sheen, you must never, ever, ever play a non-Welsh character. I never want to see you again as an Englishman, playing an American. You only take on Welsh roles, because I think if you want other actors to follow suit, then you should lead by example. Matthew Laza, Adam Brooks, Emily Carver, do stand by, because coming up, as Prince Harry battles with his emotions while finishing his historic High Court evidence, do you feel sympathy for the runaway royal, or was this just another deliberate and dramatic Hollywood act? My superstar panel will be back to tackle more of that. Plus, we'll have a lot more of the front pages in just a moment. But next, with Harry admitting he didn't seek legal advice until the year he met Meghan, is his wife the driving force behind his obsession with the courts? Lady Colin Campbell and Meghan's sister Samantha Markle join forces straight after this short break.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Brace yourselves for comedy legend Jim Davidson coming up imminently, but time now for our Royal Masterminds, Lady Colin Campbell. And in a special edition, she is joined by Meghan's sister, Samantha Markle. And in a damning insight into how Harry's flurry of legal wrangles first came about, this is the moment the Duke revealed he never considered suing the owner of the Daily Mirror until 2018, the year he coincidentally married a certain Ms Markle.
When did you first go to solicitors to seek advice about a possible claim about Mirror Group newspapers?
I didn't go to them. I bumped into my lawyer, David Sherborne, in France. It's in my book. This meeting happened in 2018.
So prior to you bumping into him, you hadn't sought advice?
No, not at all.
So it wasn't a concern over any particular article that led you to go to solicitors?
No, I'd never been shown anything. It was all contained by the palace. Even if I'd wanted to, I wouldn't have been allowed to. It was a way to put the abuse, intrusion and hate that was coming towards me and my wife, and seeing if there was any way to find a different course of action without relying on the institution's way.
But you'd known that for years, that News Group had been intercepting your phone. Did you first decide to sue the News Group and then decide to claim against Mirror Group newspapers? You knew that there was no call data from Mirror Group newspapers.
There was industrial-scale destruction of evidence.
You constantly refer to destruction of evidence. Where do you get this idea of destruction of evidence by the Mirror Group?
My legal team.
So, Lady C, so much to go on here, but I guess the first question is, does it look pretty obvious now that Meghan was a factor in his unwise legal campaign, given that he started it in 2018?
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, I have been told, because I've been doing inquiries, that, in fact, Meghan is behind all of this. Because, remember, Piers Morgan was the editor of the Mirror for much of the period. And evidently she is intent on destroying Piers Morgan. And this it would appear to be an elaborate scheme to destroy Piers Morgan and also to set them up, both she and Harry, set themselves up as being champions of the underdog. Well, I mean, the whole thing is bizarre. It's actually crazy. You know, none of it makes sense if you stop to examine the reality. I mean, Harry's doing on things that happened 30 years ago or 20 years ago, and things that he's now saying upset him now, but they didn't upset him at the time. Well, you're supposed to be upset at the time. You're not supposed to be upset when you discover 20 or 30 years later. None of it actually makes sense, except as a wonderful plant by Samantha's conniving younger sister.
Well, look, let me bring Sam in now. Sam, great to speak to you. This is the first time that you've spoken publicly about this case. Do you think, knowing your sister like you do, that she is potentially invested in this legal action because, as Lady C says, she wants to destroy Piers Morgan?
In my opinion, that may be a small factor, but you hit something on the head when you played that clip from Harry of him bumping into his attorney in 2018 and suggesting that it was then that he decided to file suit. Let's reflect back to a letter that he an email to Jason Knopf with regards to finding freedom, wherein the letter said, we have to make it look like we were not involved. Tell Meghan this, give her heads up, but we want to make it look like we were not involved.
And this is about that book by Omid Scobie, to clarify.
This was from Harry to Jason Knopf, the letter. And so on that note, I'm going to say for him to play victim or for anyone to try to bounce it all off on my sister, I think is really missing the mark. You know, there's a huge move right now to censor the media, this disinformation wave. And it seems like he's reaching back so many years for straws just to find some way, in my opinion, to chip away at the block of censoring the media, because he can't, in my opinion, have full control of the media. And, you know,
Well, he's already said that he doesn't believe in the First Amendment in the US, for example, which enshrines freedom of the press.
Oh, but he takes a lot of liberties, spewing and abusing it all over the place and enjoying it to his advantage. So what I'm going to say is, if you look at Spare, an example of that, if you look at the Oprah interview, if you look at Finding Freedom, my sister was not involved in that in a vacuum. He was participating. In my opinion, he is a purveyor of disinformation. So for him to say he's a victim and all of the articles are psychologically damaging, what about all of the articles and the social media attacks that were generated from Spare, from Oprah, from Finding Freedom, the attacks on the royal family and our family that he was.
And you, I mean, what a hypocrite. Exactly, what a hypocrite, because he has actually put out so much negativity. Sam, you are right, though, to say that this is part of a campaign. I actually want to show you another moment from our recreation of what happened in court today. So this is when Harry actually tried joking about his mounting legal cases against other newspapers.
There were a flurry of other articles on the same day that the Mirror article was published. Have you seen this particular story on your relationship with Chelsea Davy in any other publications, such as the Daily Record and Daily Star?
Not those papers, I don't think.
Why not?
I don't believe there was industrial-scale phone hacking at those publications. I have no reason to believe this was the case, and I haven't looked further into other titles. I'm quite busy with other litigation, my lord.
So, Lady C, it's all a game to him, isn't it?
Well, it's a game, but it's a game that's very politically motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Both Harry and Meghan have very huge political ambitions. You know, I have been told that a part of the agenda is whether they win or lose, whether he wins or loses. In this case, they basically feel they will have won because they are creating a platform and setting themselves up as being champions of the underdog, which is ludicrous because Harry's not an underdog.
No. And Meghan's not an underdog, is she, Sam? I mean, Meghan, despite what she claims, you know, she had a good family, great support from your father. She had her education paid for. I mean, she's hardly an underdog, is she, Sam?
No, I'm sorry. I got to throw down this spike belt right now. It's like another day in Willy Wonka's world of imagination. You cannot censor the world, villainize the world on this disinformation wave that seemingly people are riding around the world, and at the same time be the purveyor of the disinformation that you seek to silence.
Yes.
What you want to silence everybody else. You want to silence everybody else, but you want the media to serve you and fluff your ego and get out your message.
Yeah, and tell your
That's not the
lies.
way it works.
And tell your lies time and again. Look, Sam, I just want to ask you about, because we've had quite a lot of our contributors talk about how odd it is, Harry's obsession with Chelsea Davy, his ex-girlfriend. He became very emotional talking about her in court over the past couple of days. He mentions her 118 times in his witness statement, whereas your sister, Meghan, is only named 5 times. Now, I know you don't know Chelsea, but you do know Meghan. How is she going to feel, Sam, having Harry talking so publicly, so constantly about his ex-girlfriend?
In my opinion, clearly he's still in love with her, and it seems like she's the one that got away. And from what I've been seeing on social media, you know, maybe she's lucky, and that's a good thing, because I highly doubt she would want to be going through all of this. I doubt she would endorse what he did instead.
Yeah. And so how will Meghan deal with this? I mean, is Meghan, because obviously you know her so well, Sam, is she a jealous person? Will she front Harry up about this? I mean, how is she going to feel about it?
Well, I can point us back to the fact that reportedly Harry is not allowed to speak to so many of his friends. I heard that there was a rift at one of his friends' weddings in Jamaica, that there was an issue there. So if it is a matter of jealousy, well, poor Harry. But you know what? Harry is not 5 years old. He made these choices. He signed up for the package, and he can deal with it. He's got to be accountable. And, you know, all I can say is I'm thinking it's probably, in the cinematic sense, the War of the Roses inside of Montecito, in my opinion.
Yeah. Lady C, final word to you, Lady C. How badly has Harry been damaged by the past 2 days?
I think he's been very badly damaged reputationally, because he's shown himself to be arrogant, ignorant, impertinent, and I think that he's shown himself to be totally delusional, and that he has no regard for anybody's opinion but himself, and doesn't really get a handle on reality. But if this is about winning this lawsuit, it's a disaster. But if it's not only about this lawsuit, if it's about them creating a platform for them to be whinging with their politics,
then jackpot. Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Yes.
What about not just the lawsuits? What about in life? He talks about, he's so vocal on his little feelings, his psychological distress and damage. What about the psychological distress of the Queen as she was dying? And the Oprah.
Indeed, but that's why I don't think the public are with him. But look, what a joy to bring you two together virtually, because I know your close confidants, Lady Colin Campbell, Samantha Markle. Thank you both so much. But coming up in Uncancelled, from Harry's humiliation in the High Court to the Schofield scandal engulfing ITV comedy legend Jim Davidson runs us through the wild stories of this week in his truly unique style. You're not going to want to miss it. But next in the media buzz, as Harry emotionally tells the court the process has been a lot to deal with, is the Duke's cry for sympathy legitimate or just his latest Hollywood facade? My superstar panel have lots to say on it. They're going to thrash it out in just 3 short minutes' time. Don't go anywhere.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow's news site now in the media buzz. More front pages are in. Straight to The Guardian. Oh, goodness me. Is it like 2021? Nope. But The Guardian's still leading with a pathetic Partygate claim. They say Boris and Carrie Johnson had a friend stay at Chequers during the pandemic who was helping to plan their wedding. But a spokesperson for the PM says the visit by a pal was entirely lawful. They're never going to move on. These losers at The Guardian. The Daily Mail says, at long last, as police are finally turning up to all home burglaries. Meanwhile, top columnist Stephen Glover, and I agree with this, I really do. He's calling on King Charles to banish Harry to a private life if he carries on his attacks on Britain. And the paper also carries a picture of the elegant Princess of Wales playing rugby today. Only Kate could look that good playing rugby, it has to be said. My superstar panel return now. Conservative Home columnist Emily Carver, the businessman Adam Brooks and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. Now, we told you earlier how Harry had been joking in court about his mounting legal battles, but he finished giving evidence today with a stirring admission that actually it all seems to be getting a bit too much. So his voice breaking with emotion. Watch as the Duke was quizzed by his lawyer David Sherborne as he concluded his historic testimony.
You've been sat in the witness box for over a day and a half. You've had to go through these articles and answer questions in a very public courtroom, knowing the media is watching. How has that made you feel?
It's a lot.
So, has the Duke been taking Hollywood acting tips from his wife to gain sympathy, or Adam Brooks? Should we actually feel sorry for the guy?
No. At the end of the day, I mean, the car chase narrative
was spun for people to feel sorry for them and to play on Diana's unfortunate and sad death. This is just, you know, this is just another circus. It's another Netflix series in waiting. I think it's all for attention. He's embarrassed himself, and I've lost all sympathy with the lad. You know, I think he's damaging the royal family and he's damaging the UK, and he needs to stop.
I think this gives him, though, a genuine sense of purpose, because he's no longer a royal. OK, he's written a book and done a few late-night interview shows in America, in California and everywhere. But now this is his life meaning. It is his life goal. He wants to get rid of the press, change it fundamentally. And he thinks by doing this and looking very silly in the High Court, and it is how he gets there.
But here's the issue, though. The left-wing loons don't care. I mean, if you look at Sly News today, and I really hope you'd never do that, let me tell you should never do that, but sometimes I have to just to make sure what they're doing. And it's been insane today, because, Emily, they've been pulling out that oddball organisation Hacked Off again. They've unretired Alan Rusbridger and Rory Greenslade, who's the disgraced Guardian former media columnist who turned out to be a massive IRA sympathiser, and he believes, or that duo believes, that they can pontificate on the morals of the press. I mean, it's astonishing.
Well, coming from Sky News, you would have thought there would be a little more well, self-knowledge, self-awareness, perhaps. And I don't know, I think a lot of people in the media seem to think that if you support Prince Harry, that in all his endeavours, then you are the nice guy. Yeah. And if you don't, if you see through it, if you're sceptical, then you lose your woke badge.
Gold star badge.
Exactly. It's that basic. I think it is as simple as that.
Yeah. Matthew Larser, should we feel sorry for Prince Harry?
I think we should feel sorry for him to the extent that when it's over and it looks like he may very well lose, as you say, this is his life mission, and he's going to have nothing left. I mean, if it's his crusade to kind of take on what he sees as tabloid culture, what you see as attack on the free press, when it's over, what the hell is this guy going to do? And it's a reminder of why we should be a republic, because we wouldn't have. We wouldn't have hangers on like Harry to deal with.
This is galvanising support for the royal family, isn't it, Adam? Actually, you could argue that Harry is helping a post-Queen royal family.
It is. They need to sever all ties with Harry now.
Yeah. Stephen Glover's right. And actually, we're going to be discussing that on tomorrow night's show, because Stephen Glover...
If you're going to take the press to court, do it from a position of strength. Don't turn up with no evidence.
Yeah. And then there is Kate Middleton playing rugby in some lovely part of England while all this is going on.
Yeah, and we love her even more as a result. Now, look, Deputy Party leaders Oliver Dowden and Angela Rayner were leading PMQs today, and it didn't take long for the Labour loudmouth to attack the government's spending of public money on the COVID inquiry. That's before Dowden put rabid Rayner straight back in her box.
I really will say to the Right Honourable Lady, I find it extraordinary that she should lecture us on value for money for the taxpayer, when I understand she has now purchased 2 pairs of noise-cancelling headphones on expenses. Now, I will be fair to the Right Honourable Lady. If I had to attend shadow cabinet meetings, I think I'd want to tune them out too.
Good line. At least with 2 pairs of pricey Apple headphones, Angela will have no problems being able to hear here. Matthew Larser, Adam Brooks, Emily Carver, do stand by, because coming up, after Prince Harry mentioned ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davy far more than wife Meghan Markle during his historic High Court appearance, should moaning Meg be worried? Find out as we reveal tonight's nominations for Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. The next up and uncancelled as Harry's High Court humiliation draws to a close and the scandal engulfing ITV makes it all the way to Parliament. I'm joined by National Treasure, comedy legend Jim Davidson, who runs us through all the wild stories of this week. And my goodness, there's been a few. Don't go anywhere. We're back in just 2 minutes' time.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive, because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching. Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
It's time for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And I'm delighted to be joined now by comedy legend Jim Davidson. And Jim, look, Prince Harry has been in the witness box whinging and whining for the past 2 days. His testimony is now over, and as you probably know, Jim, we've brought the case to life on this show with the help of our very own Harry. So I wanted to show you some of the best bits from the deluded Duke's evidence.
I've never smoked a joint in that pub or in my father's house. I'm just speculating. The phrase two-faced shit may have come from a voicemail. That's how I've always seen him. Yes, but I was besieged with photographers at the remote polo ranch in Argentina and don't understand how.
We are now on the 22nd article.
Good morning, Mr. Green. It's a lot.
I mean, Jim, it has been a lot. What do you make of Harry's evidence?
Well, it was a bit confusing for me today. I'm a bit sunburnt. I've been out to sea today filming. And so I stuck the telly on, first of all, because I knew I was going to speak about this. I knew it would be on in mine. And I got Prime Minister's Question Time. Well, I didn't realise it was Prime Minister's Question Time. It was Angela Rayner, or whatever her name is, on there. Did you see what she had on? I thought I'd got Babe Station by mistake. So I'm now flicking through. Well, it's a nice dress. What you call lo and behold. So
did you approve?
I'm flicking through, and now I'm thinking, that's not Prince Harry, is it? Talking? It's a fantastic idea. Who picked that actor? It looks nothing like him, Dan. Lenny Henry could have done it.
Look, it's the best we could do. He's lovely, Reese. He's the best Prince Harry lookalike in the country, and I'm going to stick up for him.
Yes, okay. And then it's you and me. I'll have a little bald patch on here. I used to be ginger about 1,000 years
ago. Well, Reese does have a lot more hair than Prince Harry, it had to be said. But Jim, I mean, do you think Harry did himself any favours with this evidence?
No, someone's told him to go and do this. First of all, he hasn't done any prep, has he, at all? I'll just get away with it. And then it's either his missus that said, oh, you can't have any of this, off you go. Or he's bumped into a lawyer. Lawyer's probably a bit skint and said, I'll tell you what, Harry, what we'll do. How are you getting on with that Daily Mirror group? Why don't we have another go at them? And then in they go. I think it's silly. What I want to know is what damage was actually done. If, in fact, he was, stuff was got from him illegally, I particularly don't think it was. I mean, the press have followed me around forever. It's a game of chess. Everyone knows what's what. You know, it's cops and robbers. What was the damage? He will say, because, well, my girlfriend Chelsea ran off and dumped me because of it, and I had to go and find an American.
Which actually maybe has damaged the whole country, actually, when you think about that. But it was interesting speaking to Angela Levin earlier because she thinks there were loads of reasons why Harry and Chelsea broke up. Partly, Jim, and I know you wouldn't do this, he was going to strip clubs a lot at the time, and Chelsea didn't like that.
What do you mean he had a part-time job as a stripper? Well, these things keep coming out, don't they? If you pardon the pun. Well, look, he's a young man. He's the man that would never be king, isn't he? Really?
Yeah,
So
and look, we loved Harry when he went to strip clubs. That's when he had a sense of humour. That's when he had a personality. That's when we could relate to him. Not now when he's some woke, holier-than-thou preacher.
Well, who's done this to him? Who is this? These women. They do it to us men. Look at me.
Oh, that's a whole other story, Jim. But look, elsewhere, look, I've got to speak to you about Holly Willoughby, who made a big return to the This Morning sofa without her longtime buddy, Philip Schofield. And unfortunately for Holly, not quite sure her emotional comeback speech had quite the desired effect, Jim.
Right, deep breath. Firstly, are you okay? I hope so. It feels very strange indeed sitting here without Phil. You, me, and all of us at This Morning gave our love and support to someone who was not telling the truth, who acted in a way that they themselves felt that they had to resign from ITV and step down from a career that they loved. That is a lot to process.
Jim, are you okay after that?
Well, no, I've got a bit nauseous. I've just reached for the Zantac with a Scotch top. But here we go. Don't these people do anything but read the autocue? Does Willie Hollaby get up in the morning and say, hello, everybody, I'd like bacon and eggs today and a cup of tea? At least, you know, GB News, let's blow a bit of sunshine here. You do have autocue because you've got to give news. But it's everyone has got a personality. GB News is brilliant because people watch it to get news who have no need of news. But what is Wally Hollaby? What do they do on that This Morning?
So you didn't think that felt? You didn't feel that came from the heart. You didn't feel that came from the heart.
I think Gary Bushell was right when he summed up Phil. He said his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes.
Now look, Jim, if you thought Ollie's statement was bad, did you see the editor of This Morning, Martin Frizzell, who gave a, I think, bizarre response, Willie, where he was asked about the toxic culture of the show?
Is there a toxic work environment at This Morning?
I'll tell you what's toxic. I've always found toxic is aubergine. Do you like aubergine? Do you?
Is there a toxic work environment?
Do you like aubergine? Because I don't like aubergine. It's just a personal thing.
What's going on there, Jim? I know, that's the thing. It was the wrong vegetable to choose, Jim, because it has some connotations. Yeah, just especially when you're talking to a young lady on camera, do not talk about aubergines. That's a good tip.
No, not aubergines. No. If you have come round my house with an aubergine, Dan, I'll make you a moussaka, and that's it.
But what was that about, Jim? Do you think it was a joke gone wrong? Because, you know, you've done a few of them in your time, haven't you?
Yeah. I just think it shows the arrogance of the people on ITV. You know, this is a station that's run by people that have no idea of what the public want to watch. The trashy shows, the same people all the time. Oh, well, I would say that, but I'm not on it. I don't want to be on. I wouldn't go on ITV with a gun against my head. I think it's all shocking. I don't watch it. I watch you, Dan.
Yeah, well, it is really interesting, isn't it? This Carolyn McCall, she's the uber woke chief executive, right? Got rid of Piers Morgan, got rid of Jeremy Clarkson, got rid of Jeremy Kyle, got rid of Carol McGiffin, got rid of Eamon Holmes. So she's there with all of these woke people who make really terrible TV, and she doesn't tell the truth. So I actually think she's going to have to face the music at some point. And actually, the good thing if she goes, Jim, maybe ITV wouldn't go down this woke path. We can but hope.
Well, let them get on with it. Who cares? You can't prevent... You can't prevent it, Dan. Just watch something else. We have got a knob on the television.
Yes, yes, we do. There's a few of them. There's a few of them. Not on this show, though, Jim. Not on this show. Now, Jim, speaking of knobs, have you heard about this ridiculousness with Michael Sheen?
Not at this age.
Michael Sheen, right? So he had said, Jim, that people should not be able to... non-Welsh people, stick with me here, Jim, I'm going to explain this. Non-Welsh people should not be able to play Welsh characters. He says it's hard for him to accept that. But Firstly, I don't get that, because isn't the whole point of acting, I keep saying this, playing things that you're not? And secondly, Jim, he's constantly playing English characters, so why is he allowed to do that?
Well, I don't know. There is a shortage of Welsh actors because they're all on GB News adverts. Hello, welcome to Ford Reserve Jewellers.
And we love our Welsh advertisers, yes we do.
Yeah, no, but he does play English people. The whole idea of acting is you can be whoever you want. I did an audition once to play the part for Nelson Mandela, but I didn't get it.
Wonder why.
I was too tall, apparently. I was too tall. And if you think that he's played all these English people, I just think he's bonkers.
Yeah,
he always looks like David Frost. Anyway,
he is. Well, look, he should never play a non-Welsh character again, and then hopefully we'll see a bit less of Michael Sheen on our screens. Jim Davidson, outrageous and brilliant as ever. Thank you so much, Jim. But it's time now to reveal tonight's greatest Britain and Union jackass. Oh, my superstar panel return. Emily Carver, who's your GB nominee?
It is going to be J.K. Rowling for having to put up with all of this nonsense from Oxfam and co.
Yeah, that was so cruel what they did, making her out as some evil TERF. But I say, actually, she's a hero TERF, and just reclaim the word.
I think so.
Adam Brooks, your nominee?
My honorary nominee is Elon Musk for calling out the crazy green agenda and pointing out that killing millions of cows is not going to affect climate change one bit.
And Matthew Laza, your greatest Britain nominee, please.
Mine is Darren Rudderwell, who's the Labour leader of Barking and Dagenham Council in East London, because he said that families who won't blow the whistle on knife crime could lose their council houses. May not be the answer, but it's great to see a Labour working class voice speaking up.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm going to go with Adam Brooks and Elon Musk, because I think it's absolutely brilliant that Elon is starting to use Twitter to question a lot of these narratives that have been shoved down our throat in the MSM. Of course, here on GB News, we have proudly questioned the nut zero agenda from day one, and we will continue to do so. Who is your Union Jackass nominee, Emily Carver?
Well, in line with the show, I think it's got to be Prince Harry for turning up to the High Court without any evidence.
It's so weird, actually, seeing Prince Harry. I much prefer seeing our lovely actor, Reese. Very good actor, Reese. Adam Brooks, your nominee.
Mine is Oxfam for their hateful and divisive campaign against J.K. Rowling. And also, I just don't understand why anyone would want to donate to a company with such big scandals that have gone on over recent years.
I mean, that's what they did with J.K. Rowling. But isn't this indicative, Adam, of what's going on? You know, so you have Holier Than Thou, ITV, preaching to us, and yet they've got all of their own scandals. Now Oxfam, totally holier than thou. They have all of their own scandals. How dare they
it's none of their business.
Parts of the population who are worried about protecting the rights of biological women? It just makes no sense. But I thought the hate campaign on J.K. Rowling was truly despicable. And Matthew Laza, your nominee?
Mine is Energy Fat Cat, the boss of National Grid, John Pettigrew, who's taken home 7.2 million this year, up 600,000 in just 12 months. Obscene when millions of families can't afford to put the heating on.
So you don't just think it's capitalism?
Well, I don't think that any energy company deserves to have... His workers certainly aren't getting a pay rise of that percentage, and I'm sure there are others who do the job for a lot less. So it's a case of boys looking after themselves.
OK, well, look, there is only one choice tonight. There is only one choice tonight. Of course, it's Emily Carver's nominee, Prince Harry, because what Prince Harry did today was try to gaslight the British population into thinking that it is the British press that has ruined his life. And actually, he was unable to produce any evidence whatsoever of phone hacking. I think he hijacked a court process, actually, to push his deranged campaign to stop freedom of the press in the UK. I'm going to repeat again. I deplore the illegal activity that went on at tabloid newspapers decades ago. But that doesn't mean that you can simply try and force a judge into going with what you say without the evidence to back it up. But look, thank you so much to Emily Carver, Adam Brooks and Matthew Laza, my superstar panel tonight. Thank you for your company. I'm back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. Next up, it's headliners with their irreverent take on tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Good night.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it